Hi everyone, welcome to Tech Cravers and another Android handheld review. So I wasn't actually planning to review the AYANEO Pocket Air Mini, mainly because I've had a lot going on lately, and if I'm being honest, this wasn't exactly a device I felt I needed to prioritize. I mean, everyone already seems to agree that this is a very good device within its price range. But then, this showed up, and yeah, that changed things. This is the AYANEO Pocket Air Mini B.Duck Limited Edition. And I mean, there's just no way you ignore something that looks like this. Now, if you have no idea what B.Duck is, it's basically a massive designer character brand, especially in Asia. Think collectibles, collaborations, all built around this very confident looking yellow duck. And what AYANEO has done here is take a small, budget-focused handheld and turn it into something that's way more expressive and way more playful, and definitely not subtle. But here's the interesting part, because this isn't just a cosmetic reskin. This limited edition actually comes with a different configuration compared to the base model, and that does affect how this device performs. So in this video we're going to unbox it, take a closer look at this very bold design, go through the specs, what's actually different here, and test some emulation, and figure out if this is just a collector's piece, or something that actually makes sense to use. Now let's get started. Alright, so let's start with the box, and yeah, AYANEO usually does have a bit of personality in their packaging, but this definitely takes it a step further. Right away you can tell that this is leaning hard into the whole B.Duck theme. It's bright, it's playful, it's full of character, and honestly it feels more like something from a lifestyle brand than a typical handheld. You got a bold yellow color, the graphics, the little details all around, it just feels fun. And that's not something you usually say about handheld packaging. But at the same time it doesn't feel cheap. Quite the opposite actually, it feels surprisingly well put together. Like there's been real effort put into making this feel like a proper limited edition, not just a quick reskin. But alright, let's open it up. And inside things get a lot more simple. We got the handheld itself wrapped up, clean presentation, and we'll take a closer look at that in just a second. Underneath that there's not a whole lot going on. We get a small card with the QR code to download the manual, which honestly should probably be standard at this point. It saves paper, it's cleaner, and realistically, most people are going to look it up on their phone anyway. And then you got the USB-C to USB-C charging cable. And that's it. No extras, no surprises, just the essentials. But again, this is one of AYANEO's more budget-focused devices, so that's not really unexpected. What is interesting though is that even with minimal contents, the overall experience still feels more premium than a lot of other handhelds in this price range. And a big part of that is the box. But now let's get to the interesting part, the handheld itself. And yeah, you're immediately hit with that same design language. It's bright, colorful, and it definitely leans more toward that collector lifestyle feel rather than something trying to look serious or minimal. And one thing I do appreciate right away, AYANEO has already pre-installed a screen protector, so all you have to do is to peel that off. And now you're good to go. Everything looks intentional, from the color choices to the details. It actually comes together pretty well. On the left side you got your analog stick, D-pad and buttons, all matching the same bright playful theme. Moving down to the bottom, everything is clean and minimal. And I really like how the yellow color shifts from light to dark and rich. On the right you got the second stick and face buttons, and again everything just ties into that overall design. It's consistent, which I like. Up top you got your shoulder buttons and triggers, and this is where AYANEO usually does pretty well in terms of feel, but we'll test that properly later. And around the back you can see the full design come together. It's definitely not subtle, but at the same time it doesn't feel cheap either. And I think that's going to be the big question moving forward. Is it just something that looks fun, or is it actually nice to use? But alright, so before we go through the specs we need to talk about something that might seem a bit confusing at first. Because if you've been following this device, you might remember that AYANEO originally said that this would use a MediaTek Helio G90T, but then you look at the box and it says MT8085V. And if you dig even deeper into the system, you might also see the Helio G90 or MT6785 showing up. So yeah, on the surface that looks very questionable. Like, what chip is actually in this thing? But here's the reality. These are essentially different names for the same chip. MT8185V and MT6785 are basically just different identifiers for what it is. In practice, the Helio G90 family, very close to the G90T in terms of performance and architecture. So while it looks messy, it's not actually AYANEO swapping hardware or doing anything shady. It's just MediaTek naming being MediaTek naming. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the actual specs. So there are two versions of the Pocket Air Mini, the base model that comes with 2GB of RAM and 32GB of storage, and then there's this one, the higher configuration with 3GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. Now that higher spec isn't exclusive to the B.Duck Edition, but this limited version is only available in that configuration. So if you're picking this up, you are getting the more capable version by default, and that does make a difference. Because while this isn't a very high-end device, the extra RAM helps with emulator stability, multitasking, and just overall smoothness. Now performance-wise, this chip is firmly in the budget category, but it's still a very capable chip for what this device is built for. You're looking at solid performance for systems like SNES, PlayStation and Dreamcast, and you can even push it into some GameCube games depending on the game. Just don't expect miracles, as I wouldn't say that this is a PS2 machine. Now the display is a 4.2-inch panel with a 4:3 aspect ratio at 1280 by 960. And honestly, that's one of the main reasons to even consider a device like this. That 4:3 format is perfect for retro gaming, everything just fits the way it's supposed to and it looks very good. You also got Hall effect sticks and triggers, which is great to see and something that AYANEO usually does really well. The battery comes in at 4500 mAh, so you're looking at a few solid hours depending on what you're running. And overall, this is a small, lightweight handheld that's very much designed for a quick portable gaming session. So when you put it all together, this isn't about raw power, it's about having a compact, focused retro device, with just enough performance to cover the essentials, and in this case, a bit more headroom thanks to the higher spec configuration. Out of the box, this device is running AYANEO's take on Android 11. Now, it's not the newest version of Android at this point, but it does come with the Google Play Store pre-installed, so you can download everything you need right away. Emulators, launchers, games, and all of that. On top of Android, you got AYANEO's own software layer, AYASpace. And if you used their Windows devices before, this will feel very familiar. It's basically a combination of a game launcher, a control center, and a system manager all in one place. You can organize your games, tweak performance settings, map controls. It's meant to be your main hub for the device. But here's the thing, you don't have to use it. If you prefer your own setup, you can completely ignore AYASpace and just install your own frontend instead. Personally, I'm running Emulation Station, and that works exactly the way you'd expect. So you got a lot of flexibility here, which is always nice to see. Now, one feature I do think is genuinely useful is the AYA Quick tool. It's basically a sidebar that you can pull up instantly no matter what you're doing. From there, you can adjust things like performance modes, fan behavior, and other system settings on the fly. And that kind of quick access actually makes a big difference in day-to-day use, especially when you're jumping between different systems or games. So overall, it's a pretty flexible experience, not the most modern Android version, but functional and customizable. And it gives you the option to either stay within AYANEO's ecosystem or just do your own thing entirely. But alright, let's talk some performance. For systems up to and including Dreamcast, PlayStation and Nintendo 64, this thing absolutely crushes it. Everything runs smoothly, consistently, and combined with that 4:3 aspect ratio, these games just look fantastic on this display. It really feels like this device was built specifically for that era of gaming. Now, stepping up to something a bit more demanding, like GameCube, which, by the way, is also a native 4:3 platform, so again, a really nice match for this screen, and I have to say, I'm actually more impressed than I expected to be. All the GameCube titles I tested were running in gaming mode, so just one step below max performance. The only difference at max really is that fan ramps up more aggressively, which can help in certain scenarios, but I wanted to keep things a bit more realistic. I was playing at native GameCube resolution, and for the most part, the experience was surprisingly solid. It wasn't until I hit more demanding scenes like heavy smoke effects in Simpsons Hit and Run that I started to see performance drop to the point where it actually impacted gameplay. Switching up to max performance did help a bit, but even then I'd say that's where this device starts to hit its limit. So yeah, GameCube isn't perfect across the board, but considering the price point and the hardware we're working with here, this is honestly a very respectable showing. And overall, I came away genuinely impressed with what this device can handle in terms of GameCube emulation. Now, when it comes to PlayStation 2, this is where things starts to feel a bit more like 2021 again. You can get PS2 running on this device, especially if you're willing to spend some time tweaking settings in something like Nether SX2, and with the right adjustments, some games run at a level that's playable, maybe even enjoyable. But let's be real, very few, if any, titles are going to run perfectly out of the box, and even with tweaking, it's still going to be a hit or miss depending on the game. So personally, if PS2 is your main focus, this is probably not the device I'd go for. Now, when it comes to the price, you can buy the Pocket Air Mini directly from AYANEO's store, and to their credit, they've clearly putting in effort to become a more consumer-friendly company after some of the criticism they've faced in the past. Now, on paper, this looks really interesting because technically this is a handle that's supposed to start under $100, and if that was actually the case, this would be a very easy recommendation. But here's the catch. That base model, the one under $100, is basically not available, so realistically what you're choosing between is the higher spec version at around $109, or about $119 if you want the B.Duck Limited Edition. And to be fair, that's the version I'd recommend anyway, because for that extra $10 you're getting more RAM and more storage, and that genuinely makes a difference in day-to-day use. But then you also have to factor in shipping, and once you add that, you're getting pretty close to around $150 in total. And at that point, it starts to compete in a very different space. So, some final thoughts. I think this honestly is one of the most playful and visually unique handhelds I've seen in a long time. It's small, pocketable, and the controls are very good, and overall the hardware feels well thought out. The software is also solid with some genuinely useful features, especially things like the quick access tools. And performance-wise, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's a great device for retro gaming up to Dreamcast, PlayStation, and even some GameCube, but the price is what holds it back. Because at just over $100 it makes sense, at closer to $150 it becomes a harder sell. If they had managed to keep this under that $100 mark, this would have been an instant pickup, no question. But that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, and if you want more handheld content like this, don't forget to subscribe to Tech Ravers, and I'll see you in the next one.